The alien girl sat in the shadows of the marketplace, her body towering over everyone else. She wrapped her arms around herself, trying to hide her size, but it was impossible. Her shoulders were too broad, her limbs too thick, her figure too large for the narrow alleys. Every step she took, people stared. Every breath she gave, whispers followed her. Too big, someone muttered, loud enough for her to hear. Not even breeding material. She lowered her eyes. Those words were knives she had heard all her life. Her people measured worth only by the ability to give children. A small and delicate body was prized. A graceful figure was admired. But her? She was nothing but a joke. Children laughed when they saw her shadow. Traders shook their heads when she passed. Mothers pulled their sons away, whispering, "Stay away from her. She will never make a family. She will only bring shame." The girl hugged her knees, her back pressed against the stone wall. She wanted to vanish. She wished her body was small like the others. She wished she could hide inside a shell. But there was no escape from the truth. She was too big for her kind. The crowd moved around her, ignoring her pain. She sat alone, as always. But this night was different. Among the lights and noise of the alien market, a human walked. He was tall for his kind, but compared to her, still smaller. His steps were steady, his eyes sharp, his clothes dusty from travel. He carried himself with calm confidence. At first she thought he would pass her by like all the others, but his gaze caught her in the shadows. He stopped. The girl quickly turned her head. She didn't want him to look at her. Not him. Humans were rare in this colony. If he looked too closely, he would laugh just like the rest. But he didn't move on. He stood still, watching her. The whispers around grew louder. "Look at that," one alien said with a sneer. The human sees the useless giant. "Maybe he wants a freak for himself," another laughed. "Not breeding material," someone spat. Even a human would not want her. Her heart shrank inside her chest. She waited for his mocking words. But instead, the human stepped closer. "Yuko, look sad," he said softly. His voice was calm, not cruel. The alien girl's head jerked up. She had never heard such words spoken to her before. Not sad, not worthless, not cursed. Sad. Her lips trembled. "Go away," she whispered. Don't look at me." The human crouched so his eyes were level with hers. He studied her face, the sorrow written there. "Why would I go away?" he asked, his tone steady. "You don't deserve to be alone like this." Her chest tightened. The market fell silent. All around, aliens stared in shock. A human, speaking gently, to her, defending her with kindness. "Do you not see what she is?" One trader barked. "She is nothing. Her body is wrong. She cannot give life. She is cursed." The human turned his head, his eyes sharp with anger. "She is not nothing," he said. His voice carried through the market. "She is someone, and you will not talk about her like that." The aliens muttered in disbelief. No one had ever stood for her before. No one had ever raised their voice in her defense. The girl's heart pounded so hard she thought it might break. She wanted to tell him to stop, that his words would only bring trouble. But her throat closed up. No sound came out. The human looked back at her. "What's your name?" he asked gently. She shook her head. Her name had always been used as a weapon. She didn't want to hear it from his lips, too. "You don't have to tell me," he said softly, noticing her fear. "But remember this. You are not worthless." Tears burned in her eyes. She blinked them away quickly, not wanting the crowd to see. Yet his words had already broken the wall around her heart. No one had ever said she wasn't worthless. For the first time, she looked into his eyes. And what she saw there was not disgust. It was not mockery. It was something else, something warmer. The crowd around them laughed uneasily, whispering again. They called him foolish. They called her hopeless. They said it was a joke, but in that single moment, she did not hear them. She heard only his words, echoing in her heart. The alien girl sat frozen, torn between fear and hope. Could it be real? Could a human, this human, see her as more than just her body? The market lights flickered, shadows stretching long across the ground. Somewhere in the distance, a bell rang, but she did not notice. For the first time in her life, someone had looked at her without shame. Someone had spoken to her without cruelty. Her heart whispered, fragile and trembling, "Maybe I am not as broken as they say." Yet even as hope touched her for the first time, a new fear crept in. Why would a human defend her? What did he want in return? And deep inside, a question stirred that she was almost too afraid to ask. What if he truly meant it? The market air still held the echo of the human's words. "You are not worthless," he had said, loud enough for everyone to hear. The alien girl sat frozen, her large hands gripping her knees so tightly they shook. She wanted to believe him, but the cruel laughter around them rose again, filling her ears. "Foolish human," one trader jeered, his sharp teeth flashing. "You think this giant has value? She is waste. She is shame." Another voice joined. "Go back to your kind, human. Don't dirty yourself with her." The girl buried her face in her arms. Every word stabbed like fire. She wanted him to walk away, to leave her before the crowd's anger turned dangerous. Why should he suffer for her? But the human did not move. He straightened, his shoulders squared, and his voice cut through the mocking noise. "Enough," he said firmly. "I've heard enough." The crowd quieted for a moment. The girl dared to look up, her breath catching in her throat. He looked at them all one by one. His eyes burned with a strange fire. "Do you know what I see when I look at her?" he asked, pointing toward her. "I see strength. I see someone who has endured your cruelty and still stands. That is worth more than all your shallow measures." Gasps rippled through the aliens. No one ever spoke like this. To praise her? To call her strong? It was madness. The girl shook her head slowly, whispering, "Stop. Please stop." Her voice was almost a sob. She did not want more hate thrown at him. But the human crouched again, lowering his tone so only she could hear. "I'm not afraid of them," he said, "and you don't need to be either." Her chest tightened. The heat behind her eyes turned into tears, and she quickly looked away. His words touched something buried deep inside her, something she had long buried under shame. One of the traders snarled and stepped forward. "Do not speak lies to her, human. She is not fit for family. She will never give children. What use is she? Tell me that." The human rose to his full height and glared at the man. "What use is she?" he repeated coldly. "What use are you who tears someone down for being different? Tell me that." The trader flinched back, shocked. The market erupted in angry mutters, but no one dared step closer. The girl could not believe it. No one had ever defended her. No one had ever dared challenge her people's cruel beliefs. Yet here was a human, standing against an entire crowd, for her. Her hands trembled. She whispered again, "Why are you doing this? Why for me?" The human turned back to her. For a moment, the noise around them faded. His eyes softened. "Because you don't deserve their cruelty," he said. "Because you are more than what they say." Her heart pounded painfully, like it wanted to burst free. She could not look at him for long. She felt too raw, too exposed. No one had ever spoken to her with such fire and such kindness together. The crowd finally began to break, shaking their heads and muttering curses. "Crazy human," they said. "He will regret this." One by one they left, but their words hung heavy in the night air. Silence settled around them. Only the girl and the human remained near the shadowed wall. The girl wiped her eyes with the back of her arm, ashamed of her tears. "They will hurt you," she whispered. "If you stay near me, they will make you their enemy." The human shrugged lightly. "Let them try." His voice carried no fear. Her breath caught again. Did he truly mean it? Could he really defy them for her? He sat down on the cold ground beside her, as if it was the most natural thing. "Do you live here?" he asked gently. She hesitated. Her throat tightened. "Nowhere," she whispered. "No home, no family. They cast me out." The human nodded slowly, as if he already expected the answer. He did not laugh. He did not pity her. He simply accepted her words as truth. For a long time they sat in silence. The night sounds of the market wrapped around them, voices fading, doors closing, lights dimming. She felt the weight of his presence beside her. It was strange, but it was safe. "You shouldn't waste your time," she whispered at last, staring at the ground. "I am not like the others. I can't give children. My body is wrong. No, one wants me. That is why I am alone." The human turned his head toward her, his expression unreadable. Then slowly, he shook his head. "You believe their lies too much," he said. Her eyes widened. "Lies?" "Yes," he said firmly. "They told you that your worth is only in children. They told you your body makes you less, but I don't believe that, and I won't let you believe it either." Her chest shook. A sob slipped past her lips before she could stop it. She covered her face with her hands. No one had ever spoken against those cruel truths. No one had dared say she was more than her body. The human's voice lowered, softer now. "One day you will see yourself the way I see you, strong, brave, worthy." Her tears ran freely. She tried to speak, but her voice broke. I don't understand." "Why?" He gave a small smile. "Because sometimes the universe puts two broken souls in the same place so they can help each other heal." The girl froze. His words sank deep into her. She had always thought of herself as broken. Yet now, for the first time, she felt something else rising within her. Something fragile, but real. Hope. But as hope warmed her chest, another fear curled in her mind. If she let herself believe him, if she let herself trust, what if he left her too? Her hands trembled again. She could not bring herself to ask. But the question echoed inside her heart. Would this human truly stay? The market had grown quiet, but her heart was still racing. The human's words echoed in her ears, steady and warm, while the memory of the crowd's cruelty pressed like thorns against her skin. She sat still, her large form trembling in the shadows. The human did not leave. He waited beside her, calm and patient, as if silence itself was not heavy for him. At last, he stood and held out his hand. "Come," he said gently. "This place is not safe for you tonight." The alien girl stared at his hand. Her chest tightened. No one had ever reached for her before. She wanted to take it, but her shame held her back. She looked away. "If I go with you," she whispered, "they will follow. They hate me. They will hate you too." The human's eyes did not waver. "Let them hate," he said firmly. "I will not let them harm you." Something inside her cracked. She lifted her trembling hand, so much larger than his, and placed it in his palm. His grip was steady, strong, not afraid of her size, not disgusted by her touch, just steady. He led her away from the marketplace, down narrow streets where lamps burned low and the night wind carried the smell of dust and smoke. She moved slowly, afraid her heavy steps would draw attention, but he matched her pace without complaint. For the first time in her life, she was not walking alone. They reached the edge of the colony where buildings gave way to the dark stretch of the plains. The stars glimmered above, cold and endless. She shivered. "Why?" she asked again, her voice breaking. "Why are you helping me? You don't even know me." The human stopped and turned to her. His face was calm but serious. "I don't need to know your whole story," he said. "I can already see enough. You have been hurt, you have been cast aside, but you are still here. That matters." Her throat closed. She wanted to argue, to tell him she was worthless, but the words stuck. Instead, she whispered, "I am cursed. My people say I cannot give life. That is why they hate me. That is why I am nothing." The human's eyes softened. "You are not nothing," he said again, each word sharp as a blade. "You are someone, and I don't believe you are cursed. I believe you are stronger than all of them." Tears burned her eyes again, and she quickly looked away. She hated crying, hated showing weakness, but his words struck deep, shaking the walls she had built to protect herself. They walked further into the night. The colony behind them grew smaller, its lights fading. The silence of the plain stretched wide, broken only by the soft crunch of their steps. The girl felt strangely lighter, though fear still lingered in her chest. She glanced at him from the corner of her eye. The human walked steady, his jaw set, his gaze forward. He did not seem afraid, though she knew danger was never far. Her fear proved true when shadows moved on the path ahead. 3 figures stepped from the darkness, their shapes tall and sharp, eyes glowing faintly. They carried chains in their hands. Her blood froze. She knew them, enforcers. They came for outcasts like her, to drag them back, to punish them for daring to exist. The biggest one sneered. "There she is," he growled. "The useless one. And look, she has found herself a pet human." The girl's knees shook. She took a step back. "No," she whispered. "Please, I don't want to go with them." The human moved in front of her, blocking the enforcer's path. "Stay behind me," he said firmly. The enforcers laughed. "You think you can protect her? A human?" One shook his chain, the metal links, clinking in the cold air. "She belongs to us. She belongs to shame. Step aside." The girl clutched her chest, her heart hammering. She wanted to scream for him to run. He couldn't fight them. He would be hurt. He should leave her. She was not worth it. But the human did not move aside. He planted his feet and faced them. "She belongs to no one," he said. His voice was steel. "Not to you, not to your lies." The enforcers snarled, circling. The chains clattered louder, echoing in the night. The girl shook her head, tears running down her cheeks. "Please," she begged him, "don't fight them. They will kill you. I am not worth dying for." The human turned his head slightly, just enough for her to see his eyes. They burned with quiet fire. "You are worth it," he said, her breath caught. The words struck her like a lightning bolt, searing through years of shame and despair. No one had ever said she was worth anything. No one. And now, here was this human, ready to fight for her life as if it was priceless. The enforcers lunged. Chains snapped through the air. The night filled with the sound of battle. The girl screamed, covering her mouth with her hands, torn between terror and disbelief. She had thought her story was already written, that she would live and die as nothing. But now, watching the human stand against her hunters, she felt a flicker of something impossible. Hope. But hope was dangerous. And as the clash echoed across the plains, a dark question haunted her mind. Would hope save them, or destroy them both? The chains hissed through the air like snakes. The 3 enforcers spread out in a half circle, their glowing eyes fixed on the human and the alien girl. The night wind carried the sound of metal links scraping against the dry earth. The girl's whole body trembled. She stepped back, her massive form pressing against a rock wall. "No," she whispered, her voice breaking. "Please, I don't fight them. They will tear you apart. They always win." But the human did not step back. He stood tall, his stance firm, his fists clenched, his voice cut through the dark. "Then tonight," he said, "they will learn what it means to fight someone who doesn't break." The largest enforcer snarled, swinging his chain. The heavy links shot forward, aiming for the human's neck. The girl gasped, covering her mouth. But the human moved. Quick, sharp, faster than their eyes expected. He ducked low, grabbed the chain midair, and yanked hard. The enforcer stumbled forward with a curse, dragged off balance. The human's fist struck his jaw with brutal force. The sound cracked through the night. The enforcer reeled back, stunned. The other 2 did not wait. One whipped his chain around, aiming for the human's legs, while the other lunged with claws bared. The girl's scream echoed across the plains. The human spun, the chain still in his grip. With a powerful swing, he lashed it across the charging enforcer's chest. The alien roared in pain, falling backward. But the second chain caught the human's leg, tightening like a trap. He stumbled. The enforcer pulled hard, dragging him toward the ground. The girl's heart stopped. "No!" she cried, stepping forward without thinking. The human slammed his hand into the dirt, steadying himself. He twisted his body, using the force of the chain against his attacker. With a sudden jerk, he yanked the enforcer off his feet and sent him crashing into the rocks. The girl froze, her wide eyes shining in disbelief. She had always thought humans were fragile compared to her people. Yet here he was, fighting 3 of her kind, and winning. The largest enforcer recovered, rage burning in his glowing eyes. "You will die for this, human," he roared. He charged, swinging both chains like whips. Sparks flew as they struck the rocks around them. The human dodged left then right, his movements sharp and precise. But the second chain caught his arm, wrapping tight. The enforcer pulled, dragging him closer. The girl's chest burned. She could not watch anymore. She had always hidden, always let herself be beaten down. But tonight someone fought. For her. She could not just stand by. Her huge hands clenched into fists. With a cry, she stepped forward, her shadow towering over the battlefield. She grabbed the chain binding the human's arm and pulled with all her strength. The enforcer screamed as he was lifted off the ground, his own weapon betraying him. With a single swing, she hurled him into the dust. The ground shook with the impact. The human looked up at her, his arm free. Their eyes met. For the first time, she saw no mockery, no disgust in someone's gaze. She saw trust. The third enforcer roared, charging with blind fury. But the human was ready. He lunged forward, his fist driving into the enforcer's chest with crushing force. The alien collapsed, gasping for breath, unable to rise. Silence fell. The chains lay broken on the ground. The night wind carried only the sound of their breathing. The girl stood frozen, her hands trembling, her chest heaving. She looked at the fallen enforcers in disbelief. I helped," she whispered. The human walked to her side, steady and calm. "Yes," he said softly. "You are stronger than you believe." Her eyes filled with tears. She had never fought back before. She had never dared. But standing beside him, she had done it without thinking. The enforcers groaned on, the ground beaten but not dead. The human knew they would rise again one day with more chains, with more hatred. But tonight they had been stopped. Tonight, she had been saved. He turned to her. "We can't stay here," he said. "They will return with others. We need to leave now." Her heart pounded. Leave? Go where? She had no home, no family, nowhere to run. She looked at him, her voice trembling. "Why would you still stay with me? I bring only danger. They will never stop chasing me." The human's gaze softened, but his voice was steady. "I don't run from those who need me, and I won't run from you." Her tears spilled freely. Her whole life she had been told she was too big, too unworthy, too cursed. But this human, this stubborn, fearless human, looked at her as if she was worth every risk. She nodded slowly, her voice breaking. "Then, I will follow you." Together they turned toward the dark plains beyond the colony. The stars stretched above them, vast and endless. The chains lay shattered behind them. But even as they walked into the unknown, a shadow of fear lingered in her heart. The enforcers had been defeated, yes. But her people's hatred ran deep. And deep inside she wondered, how far could this human's defiance truly go? Could he really carry her shame and her past? Or would even he one day break? The night swallowed their figures, leaving only the whisper of chains on the cold ground, silent but not forgotten. The night stretched wide and endless. The colony lights had long disappeared behind them, leaving only the stars above and the dry whisper of the wind across the plains. The girl walked slowly beside the human, her large form casting a long shadow on the ground. Every step felt heavy, not because of her size, but because of the storm inside her chest. For the first time, she was not alone. For the first time, someone had fought for her. Yet with that gift came a terrible weight, a fear she could no longer hide. She glanced at him as they walked. His steps were steady, his shoulders strong, as if he carried no doubt. But she carried enough for both of them. Her lips trembled before she finally spoke. "Human," she whispered, her voice almost lost in the wind. He turned his head slightly. "Yes?" Her throat tightened. She wanted to stay silent, to bury the truth, but the words clawed their way out. You should not waste your time on me." He frowned gently. "Why would you say that?" Her hands shook. She stopped walking, hugging her arms around herself. The stars above blurred as tears filled her eyes. "Because I am broken," she said, "because my body is wrong." The human stayed quiet, letting her speak. She lowered her head, shame burning through her. "Since I was young, they told me I was too big, too wide, too strong. My body is not like the others. No one wants me. No one will take me as family. They say I cannot bear children. That is why they cast me out." Her voice cracked as the tears slipped down her cheeks. "Do you understand now? That is why I am nothing. That is why I should not walk beside you. I cannot give what they say makes me worthy. I cannot give life." The words broke her. She sank to her knees on the cold earth, her large frame curling inward, as if she could make herself small. "I am afraid," she whispered, shaking. "Afraid that you will see the truth and leave me too. Afraid that your kindness is only a dream. I cannot take it if you abandon me like the rest." For a long moment, silence hung heavy between them. The only sound was her sobbing, raw and painful in the empty night. She did not dare look up. She expected him to walk away, to turn his back, to prove her fear right, but instead she felt warmth. The human knelt beside her, his hand gentle on her shoulder. She flinched at first, unused to such touch, but he did not pull away. His voice was low, firm, unshaken. "Listen to me," he said. "You are not broken. You are not cursed. You are more than what they say." She shook her head wildly. "No, you don't understand. My people believe worth is in children. If I cannot give that, then I am worthless." His grip on her shoulder tightened, not harsh but steady, grounding her. "Then your people are blind," he said, "because I see worth in you already. You are strong, you are brave, and you are kind. That is more important than anything else." Her breath hitched. She dared to look at him, her eyes wet and wide. He held her gaze without flinching. "I don't care what they told you," he continued. "I don't care what lies they made you believe. You are not defined by what they want from you. You are defined by who you are." Her heart twisted painfully. No one had ever said such things to her. No one had ever spoken against the curse of her body. Yet here he was, saying it with fire in his eyes, as if it was the only truth that mattered. She sobbed again, but this time it was different. Her tears carried not just pain, but release. Her voice trembled as she whispered, "Why? Why would you say these things? Why would you fight for me?" The human's expression softened. "Because I see someone worth fighting for," he said, simply. "Because I see someone who has been hurt too long, and because—" His voice lowered, almost a whisper. "You are not alone anymore." Her heart stopped. Those words wrapped around her like a blanket against the cold. She pressed her hands to her face, shaking. Not alone. Could it be true? After all these years of darkness, after all the chains of shame, was it possible someone truly meant those words? The human let her cry, his hand steady on her shoulder. He did not push her, did not mock her, did not leave. He stayed. When her sobs finally slowed, She looked at him again, her cheeks wet. "I am afraid," she admitted, her voice fragile. He nodded. "So am I. But fear does not decide who we are. What we do does." She swallowed hard. Her chest still ached, but in that ache burned something new, something fragile yet alive. Hope. She wiped her tears clumsily with her sleeve. "If I stay with you, they will come again," she said. "They will not stop. They will hunt me until the end." The human's jaw tightened. His voice was calm but fierce. "Then let them come. I will fight them again. I will fight as many times as I need to." Her breath caught. She stared at him, unable to speak. No one had ever said such things for her. No one had ever chosen her over safety. The night stretched on, but for the first time it did not feel empty. She sat beside him, her heart raw, but alive. She had confessed her deepest fear, and instead of leaving, he had stayed. Yet even as warmth spread through her chest, a question lingered, dark and heavy. Could she really believe him? Could she trust that he would not break like all the rest? The stars above gave no answer. Only his steady presence beside her did. The plains stretched endlessly, painted silver under the starlight. The alien girl and the human walked side by side, their footsteps slow but steady. The silence between them was no longer heavy, it was gentle, almost comforting. For the first time in her life, the girl did not feel like a shadow. She felt seen. She felt alive. Yet inside, doubt still stirred like restless storms. Could this moment last? Or was it just a fragile dream waiting to break? The human glanced at her from time to time. She noticed it, though she pretended not to. His gaze was never cruel, never mocking. It was steady, thoughtful, like he was watching over her. Finally, he broke the silence. "You are quiet," he said softly. Her lips trembled. "I don't know what to say." "You don't need to," he replied. "You've carried so much. Pain alone. You don't have to explain everything, just be here." Her chest tightened. She had never been given that choice before. To just exist without being judged. Her people had always demanded she prove herself, explain herself, hide herself. But this human asked nothing of her except presence. She slowed her steps, her heart racing. "Why are you so kind to me?" she whispered. The human gave a small smile. "Because I know what it feels like to be seen as less. To be told you're not enough. And because I refuse to let you believe those lies anymore." Her throat burned. Tears pricked her eyes again, but she held them back. She had cried enough. Instead, she looked at him with something new, something fragile but growing. Trust. The night grew colder. A sharp wind blew across the plains, and she shivered, wrapping her arms around her large body. The human noticed immediately. Without hesitation, he removed the rough cloak from his shoulders and held it out. She stared at it, stunned. "But you will be cold." "I'll be fine," he said firmly. "Take it." Her hands shook as she accepted it. The cloak was small, on her, barely covering her shoulders, but the warmth of his gesture burned deeper than any fabric could. She clutched it close, her heart hammering. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice breaking. He nodded simply as if it was nothing. But to her, it was everything. They stopped near a cluster of rocks where the wind was softer. The human sat, down, leaning against the stone, and gestured for her to rest too. She hesitated, her size making her afraid she would crush the ground beside him. But he looked at her calmly, waiting. Finally, she lowered herself, careful and slow. The earth did not break. She sat close, though not too close, afraid to scare him. The silence stretched again, but this time it carried warmth. The human leaned back, watching the stars. "Strange, isn't it?" he said. "How small we are under all this sky. And yet somehow two people can find each other out here." Her breath caught. His words felt like a thread pulling at her heart. She looked at him, the starlight soft on his face, and whispered, "I never thought I would find anyone, not someone who would stay." He turned his head toward her, his eyes steady. "And yet, here I am." Her heart skipped. The way he said it, so simple, so sure, it was more powerful than any promise she had ever heard. She lowered her gaze, her fingers twisting the edge of the cloak. Her voice was barely a whisper. "I am still afraid." He reached out then, slowly, carefully. His hand brushed against hers. His touch was light, hesitant, as if asking permission. Her breath froze. Her skin burned where his fingers touched. She had never been touched like this before. Not with gentleness. Not with care. She lifted her eyes, and their gazes locked. "You don't need to fear with me," he said quietly. Tears blurred her vision. She nodded, unable to speak. Slowly, she let her hand relax under his touch. His fingers curled around hers, warm and firm. The world seemed to still. The stars above, the winds around them, the silence of the night. All of it faded, leaving only the heat of his hand in hers. Her chest ached with something new, something she had never dared feel. Hope was there, yes, but it was more. It was love. Fragile, but real. She whispered, trembling, "Why me?" His thumb brushed gently against her hand. "Because you are you, and that is enough." Her tears fell then, but they were no longer only from pain. They were from something sweeter, something she had thought she would never know. She leaned closer, her heart beating like a drum, and for the first time she allowed herself to believe. They sat like that, side by side. Their hands joined under the stars. The silence was no longer lonely. It was full. But as the night deepened, a shadow lingered in her thoughts. Love had touched her at last, but danger was not gone. Her people would not stop hunting. The enforcers would not forget. And though her heart whispered she had finally found something precious, another voice whispered darker fears. Could it last? Or would the world tear it away from her once again? The days turned into weeks, and the weeks into quiet seasons. The alien girl and the human built a life far from the colony, hidden among the rocky hills where the stars burned bright and the winds carried only silence. For the first time in her life, she felt peace. No chains, no whispers, no cruel laughter. Just the steady rhythm of his voice, the warmth of his presence, and the strange, fragile feeling growing inside her. Hope. Yet deep in her heart, shadows remained. The fear never fully left. She remembered her people's cruel words. Too big. Too wrong. Not breeding material, never a family. Those words clung to her like scars. One evening, she sat by the fire they had built. Her arms wrapped around herself, her eyes lost in the flames. The human sat across from her, sharpening a blade with calm hands. His eyes lifted to her face, noticing the cloud in her expression. "You're troubled," he said quietly. She hesitated, her lips trembling. I keep thinking of what they told me," she admitted. "That I cannot give life, that I am broken. Even now, even here, I feel it pressing on me." The human set the blade aside and leaned closer, his voice steady. "You are not broken," he said. "Even if you never bore children, you would still be whole, still worthy, still loved." Her chest burned, tears pricked her eyes. She wanted to believe him, but doubt gnawed at her heart. "But what if you regret me?" she whispered. He shook his head firmly. "I could never regret you. You are my choice, my strength, my heart." Her tears fell then, soft and quiet. She leaned forward and he wrapped his arms around her. She sank into him, letting the warmth of his embrace shield her from the cold night and the colder memories. Days passed, and something began to change. At first she thought it was nothing, a strange tiredness, a heaviness in her body. But then came the signs she could not ignore, the way her breath shortened, the way her body shifted, the way something stirred deep inside her. Fear gripped her. She hid it for days, not daring to believe, not daring to hope. But the truth grew stronger with each sunrise. Finally, she could no longer keep it to herself. One night, under the pale glow of the moons, she stood before him, her hands trembling over her stomach. Her voice shook as she spoke. "Something is happening," she whispered. "Something inside me." The human's brow furrowed. He stepped closer, his hand brushing hers gently. "What do you mean?" Her throat closed. She forced the words out, her heart pounding like thunder. I think I carry life." The world seemed to freeze. The fire crackled softly, the stars shone bright, and the human stared at her with wide, stunned eyes. Her hands shook harder. "It can't be true," she said, her voice breaking. "It's impossible. They told me I could never. I was too big, too wrong. I was cursed." Tears streamed down her face. "But I feel it. I feel it growing." The human's chest rose sharply. Slowly, gently, he placed his hand over hers, on her stomach, his eyes filled not with disbelief but with light. "It's not impossible," he whispered. "It's a miracle." Her sobs broke free, raw and unrestrained. She collapsed into his arms, trembling, her heart shattering and mending at the same time. He held her close, his hand never leaving her stomach, his voice steady in her ear. "You were never cursed," he said. "You were never too big, never too wrong. They lied to you. Look at you now. You carry life. You carry proof that they were wrong all along." Her tears soaked his chest. She clung to him like a child, her voice trembling. "I don't deserve this. I don't deserve you." He held her tighter. "Yes, you do. You deserve love. You deserve family. You deserve happiness." The night wrapped around them, but the fire inside her heart burned brighter than it ever had. For the first time, she felt truly free from her people's chains. For the first time, she believed she was worthy. In the weeks that followed, her body changed more, and the truth became undeniable. She was carrying his child. The miracle she had been told would never happen. The human stayed by her side through it all, protecting her, comforting her, reminding her each day that she was not alone. And one morning, as the first rays of light spread across the hills, she whispered words she had never thought she would say. "I am not ashamed anymore," she said softly. Her hand rested on her growing stomach. "I am not broken. I am whole." The human smiled, his eyes shining with pride. He pulled her close, pressing his forehead to hers. "You were always whole," he said. "Now the world will see it too." She closed her eyes, breathing in his warmth, her heart full of something she had once thought impossible. Love, hope, family. And as the wind carried their laughter across the plains, she knew her life had changed forever. She was no longer the girl whispered about in shame. She was a woman loved, a woman chosen, a woman carrying a miracle, a woman who finally believed she was enough.